Longtime viewers of my channel know I love Jack Kirby's work. He is my all-time favorite artist in all of comics. He's the king of comics for a reason. In one of my earliest videos on my channel, I showed off this beautiful hardcover from Hermes Press, showing off all of the daily strips of Sky Masters of the Space Force. Well, now the Jack Kirby Museum has put out this incredible source of knowledge, comic book history, and all of the Sky Masters Sunday strips in this awesome hardcover. I fell in love with this book. I couldn't stop reading it. I'm going to show this off to you today because you have to pick this up, put this in your hands if you're a comic book history fan or Jack Kirby fan. Stay tuned while I put this under the microscope and watch this video. And we're back. My name is Taylor. This is Taylor Talks Comics. Please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below with your thoughts throughout the duration of this video. Jack Kirby is one of my favorite subjects to talk about on this channel, so anything you have to say about the king, Jack Kirby, I welcome those conversations and I reply to all comments. So first of all, thank you so much to the Kirby Museum for sending this out to me. I cannot thank you enough for that. They sent me out this review copy, said that they were a fan of the channel, which blew me away. I can't believe that the Jack Kirby Museum even watches my channel. Truly kind of starstruck in that moment when I got that message. But this was put out by the Kirby Museum through Zoop, which is a crowdfunding web campaign, kind of like Kickstarter or Indiegogo. And right when this campaign came out, I was interested. I wanted to pick it up, but didn't pull the trigger. And so another reason why I was glad that they reached out so I can get my hands on a copy, because this has been previously released in a few different formats, but never with this extensive amount of history and knowledge and restoration of these great comic book strips. Or comic strips. So this is truly the creme de la creme of this series. Now, like I said in the preamble, I did do a video on this. This is the daily strips. This is put out by Hermes Press in this hardcover. I think the hardcover is way out of print, but I think the paperback version of this might still be easily attainable. So you can watch my video on that. I'll probably link that above and below where you can get this from, and the information based on that strip. The daily strip, the daily version. But today we're talking about the color Sunday strips. So you see this great cover here. Here's the beautiful spine. You can see by Kirby Museum Press, the complete Sundays, 1959 through 1960. Beautiful spine. You got Jack Kirby, Wallace Wood, Dick Ayers, Dave, and Dick Wood. And then you have a great picture of the king back here with the description of the book you're looking at. Now, if you missed out on this book, don't worry. It's $55 in the US, and it is available on the Jack Kirby Museum website. I'll have a link below directly to that store where you can buy this book. And I would not hesitate too much, because when this goes out of print, I don't know if they're going to be able to bring it back to print anytime soon. But if you're a Jack Kirby fan or a fan of comic book history, you're going to want this book, I promise you. Here's the in papers. This beautiful piece of original art blown up to fit the in papers here. Sky Masters of the Space Force. Brilliant artwork here by Jack Kirby. It says the image courtesy of John Byrne. So I wonder if John Byrne owns the original art piece to this. And the back end papers are the same. And now, if there was only 54, I think, of the Sunday strips set of, I can't remember. It's only a year's worth, so maybe 52. But all those strips are in here. But this is a 144-page book. And the strips are in here full pages. So, actually, I can tell you how many strips there were, because I want to make sure I get this right. I gotta get my facts straight here, right? Where's the last strip? Oh, it's right here. 54. So there's 54 strips. They're all included in here. So what are the other 90 pages in here? So much history. Everything you ever wanted to know about Sky Masters and what the heck this strip was in this brief little period of Jack Kirby's career prior to him going to Marvel Comics. It's all here. There's literally, I don't know what else you could add to the story of the behind the scenes of Sky Masters or what you'd want to see of the actual strip itself that is not included in here. Just truly one of my favorite books. I love comic book history, and I love diving in and these kind of books that just pour through everything you would want to know. It's really amazing stuff. So here's the story behind Sky Masters by John B. Cook. He writes down the entire history of it, which a quick synopsis it's the late 50s. Jack Kirby's working with DC Comics or National at the time, and he's doing things like the Green Arrow and Challengers of the Unknown. And talk about this a little bit more extensively on the Dailies video. It's this weird period because he does Challengers of the Unknown with Dick and Dave Wood, which everyone talks about how that there's like a bridge from Challengers of the Unknown to the Fantastic Four as far as like inspirations go. Here's a original art page of the Challengers. And there's a kind of a bridge of the gap there. And now the actual bridge itself is Sky Masters. There was Challengers of the Unknown and then Sky Masters of the Space Force. And then he went to do Marvel. He didn't do Fantastic Four right away. It took a year or so into his time back with Marvel. But those three in succession are this like total exploration of space and exploration of in the science fiction genre by Jack Kirby. And you can totally see how they're all kind of tied together. Now, not by story, but by a theme and artwork style and just the things that Jack was exploring through these explorers. Now, there's such rich history in here. Like there literally no stone was left unturned. They even have like this great picture here by Jack Kirby, which is say was hanging up in his house, I believe, framed. Yeah, you see Wally Wood working on the title lettering of the character names: Sky Cannon, Rocket Cannon, Sky Cannon, and then Sky Masters would eventually became. And now there's a big lawsuit involved where Jack Kirby was going through this lawsuit with National and Jack Schiff, which eventually is why Jack Kirby left DC Comics, because there's this rift between the two because of this lawsuit. All the information you want to know is here. You even get Jack Schiff's side of the story and Jack Kirby's side of the story. They even have court documents in here, which is amazing. It all came down to Jack Schiff thinking that, or coming up with the idea that Jack Kirby was going to owe him money based on him helping Jack Kirby land this project. It was Jack Kirby's dream for a while to do a newspaper strip. That was like the creme de la creme of cartooning, because comic books were kind of like the bastardized medium, but the national newspaper strip with guys like Milt Caniff and Al Cap, those guys like were like put on a pedestal as far as cartooning and art goes, because adults and grown-ups even respected them. It wasn't just kids. And after the Comics Code Authority and Frederick Wortham and his craziness, the comic book medium was definitely dumbed down and aimed only at kids, because that's all they could do after the Comics Code. But that's another story for another day. So all the information's in here, even the Kirby's output, which you see how many pages he put together throughout 1958, 1959, including the strip. The pages that he did for DC Comics / National, and the strip that he did with this. And then here's the contract agreement, and then here's the actual countdown of the comic book he did and how many pages were in each of them. And it totaled that in 1958 he did 466 pages of comics, and in 1959 335 pages. That's averaged together, that's more than a page a day. That's insane, an insane output, and Jack Kirby was known for his insane output. There'll never be another cartoonist or comic book artist that has the amount of output, the amount of creative ideas, the amount of creations and inventions, the amount of times they just push the medium in ways. There will never be another Jack Kirby. So that's like the story of the behind the scenes. Now we're going into the production of not only the strip itself, but also the reproduction of this book that we're reading. So this is by Farron Delgado writing this part, and he shows you, here's like a prime example. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Here's a prime example. So right here we have a printed panel with the engraver's interpretation of the color. Then we have the color guide by Kirby, which there are color guides in here, which I will show later. And then the remastering as close to the color guide. So you do like a comparison of the three, and this is what you're going to get in this book itself, with the remastering of each comic strip, and it's trying to be as close to what Jack Kirby intended as possible. Because Jack Kirby really did pour his heart and soul into this project. Some of the financial and monetary issues with Jack Schiff didn't kind of ignore the idea that Jack Kirby was paying his inkers and colorists and things on this project because he wanted it to be the best of the best. He really, really poured his heart and soul into this project. So he's paying Wallace Wood to ink his comic book. He handpicked Wallace Wood. He knew Wallace Wood was great throughout EC Comics with his sci-fi comics, and he's like, if there's one guy to ink a sci-fi strip, it's got to be him. then eventually Dick Ayers inked some of it. I believe Roz Kirby even inked some of these strips in here too. I remember seeing her name on here. Roz Kirby, the longtime wife and partner of Jack Kirby. So really, really just dedicated to making the strip a big success. And unfortunately, it only lasted 2 years, but fortunately for us, we get the Marvel Universe because of it, right? So here's some cool promotional advertisements of the strip before it came out. And I just love this because you get to see them like really putting Kirby on a pedestal and fanboying over him and promoting him as this big titan of the industry of comics before he creates the Fantastic Four or the Hulk or the X-Men or the New Gods or Darkseid. Like, he's putting on a pedestal before he creates all those characters, showing how important of a figure he was before that was even a thing. I always talk about how Jack Kirby had like 3 Hall of Fame careers throughout his career, which just sets him apart from everybody else as well. I do love the color comparison up here too. This is kind of like the printed, blown up from the newspaper, and this is the remastered version of it. So here's the introduction for the Sunday strips themselves, and now we're getting to the strips. And again, every little touch of this book and every little piece of it is brilliant. Like, they left no stones unturned. The book design is great. Every bit of information you want for this comic strip is here. So it starts off at the tops of each page. It tells you what strip number it is and what date this showed up in the newspaper and who inked it and the source for the color guide and whether there's sourced from original art or sourced from the printer's proof. It's all there. Then at the bottom, on the bottom pieces of each page, you have a little bit of Easter egg information, like behind the scenes, director's cut kind of things. And also these QR codes, which you can scan and pull up more information or videos or things that they're referencing throughout this. So it's not just the strips in these 54 pages. There's so much information packed in here beyond that. And I just absolutely love this. And I love being able to read these Sunday strips like this, which are just action adventure beyond belief. I do want to point out, anytime we get Jack Kirby doing this motif of astronauts leaning back and going forward like that, you see it on the cover here of the daily strip. There's panels of the Fantastic Four when they're doing this. They're kind of facing the other way, but it always just reminds me of Fantastic Four, and I just love how much Jack Kirby went to that same kind of panel. But they also talk about how this was produced in different types of formats and strips, or newspapers. I think it's on page 114. They show you the examples of that. Page 76. They show you that this was airing in newspapers in 3 different ways. So there was like this landscape format here with the these throwaway panels, which was like the, what do you call the Skymaster scrapbook in this landscape format. But Jack Kirby put the Skymaster scrapbook down here. They're kind of extra information. They're not going with the story itself, so that some newspapers would just cut off that completely and just put the actual adventure strip part of it in there. And then some of them had a full tabloid version of the newspaper strip where they have the whole thing up in here too. So when they're doing that, they have to even like cut and piece things together and put them in a different, not different order, but different format, to where this would be 4 panels across, but this would have the 4th panel go down here. So they're formatting it in different ways as well. So one of the important reasons why Jack Kirby had worked with these rectangular panels. But everything is in here, just all the information along with the strips. I would have been happy, honestly, because I never read this until I had this book in my hands, just having the 54 strips in a giant format. But having all this information in there as well, and knowing that I love everything, learning as much as I can about Jack Kirby, I was so happy to get this book in my hands and to read all of these and sit down. And the first time I read these, when I got this book in, I just read the strips. I kind of ignored I read this part of it, but I kind of ignored the bottom parts because I was like, I'll go back and read those because I don't want it to interfere with my reading experience. But then I went back and was like reading them through again with the Easter eggs to really get in the whole kind of scope of information that they're throwing at you here. So here's the back matter. That wasn't all the information. So now we're getting examples of things that might have inspired Jack Kirby. I love that they included this in here as well. And throwaway panels, some panels that were thrown away that didn't appear in certain formats. Those are all in here as well. And then the color guides. So this is, I think Ferran Delgado, when he was writing earlier in the book, talked about this, where he acquired these color guides from Jack Kirby, where he was literally coloring on top of these copies of his original art to show the colorist in order to tell them how he wanted these to be colored. And he found all these on eBay, I think, from a seller. I think it was from the Kirby Museum, actually, if I remember correctly. And he bought the whole stack of them and then was able to use these for his remastering with his project, which is just amazing to see. You don't see Jack Kirby color things hardly ever. So to see his color treatment and his concept of color, he like totally knew what he was doing. Like totally knew what he wanted out of these comics and things. He was just usually strictly a penciler, especially through the 60s, because that's all he had time for. But there would be occasions throughout history where he'd ink himself. You have these color guides to show that he knew how to do that. And of course, throughout the 70s, he was writing his own comics as well and editing them. So, and then this is original art and extra. So we get some original art pages here. We can see like all the original art page with all of the, you know, the warts and all, like where it's like aged, and you can see that what they're drawing on, but they did type on here to show you what strip is which, so you can kind of compare those to the original ones as well, and kind of read them in this black and white experience too, because they're probably closest to an artist edition of the Sky Master strips that we'll ever get. And then that's not all. There's more in here. I promise you, this is such a great book. It's packed full of knowledge and history and things. So here's Dick Ayer's point of view. So Dick Ayer's writing a little bit about his experience with Jack Kirby, longtime inker Jack Kirby, and his experience working on here, and how at first he was kind of daunted by having to follow up Wallace Wood on inks, which is, you know, as we can all imagine. Here's the Tiger 21 strip that was an original concept for a sci-fi strip that Jack Kirby is pitching. And we got the Johnny Reb strip in here, Davy Crockett. So some more examples of Jack Kirby trying to break it in to the newspaper strip scene. And we have the Three Rocketeers. We have some more examples of that. Inky, which was another strip that he did. And then the Challenge of the Unknown. Other Kirby and Wood collaborations. The Surf Hunter collection is in here too with these strips. So I love this too, this underwater adventure. I would have loved to see more of that. I don't know how much of that existed. I forget how long that strip lasted. Then we get some original pencils by Kirby. And then the big What If, with Fernando Delgado and Patrick Ford talking about the what if Sky Masters took off. And then Spider-Man. So we get Jack Kirby moving into the Marvel age. Truly an amazing book for all Jack Kirby fans, for all fans of comic book history. I cannot recommend this enough. Thank you so much to the Kirby Museum for sending this out to me. I can't thank you. I know this is truly a treasure to have it in my collection. Truly, it's a joy to own this. I can't express that enough. So I'm probably gonna go sit down and read this again after this video because I'm so hyped up about it. But everybody, thank you for watching this video. Comment down below with your thoughts on Jack Kirby, of this book, of Sky Masters, of your favorite newspaper strips, anything to do with the topic today. I reply to all comments. Give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any future videos. And keep talking comics.